day, everyone. This is a recorded session for week 13 in SST M14 population issues.
Hi guys, by the way, my name is Matthew and I will be talking to you about population issues. So let's start with global domestic and global population growth is adding to conflicts over water, energy, food, open space, and wilderness, transportation, infrastructure, schoolrooms, and numerous other problems. In developing countries, large family size is a major cause of poverty and poor health. So, yun nga ang population growth ay nakakaapekto talaga sa lahat ng tao in many ways kasi pag ang population ay mataas ay nakakapekto ito ng scarcity, nagkakaroon ng um, kakulangan sa pagkain or tubig na malinis. Open space kasi dahil sa marami ng tao na gumagamit nagkakaroon ng land at saka in other ways, kagaya rin ng mga transportasyon, nagkaka um, sobrang sikip na ng mga transportasyon kasi sa malaking population ng mga tao. So, population issues. We have only one Earth. Today, the 7.9 billion people on it are using more of its resources than it can provide. Every new person is a new consumer, adding to that demand. Some of us take far more than others, and there are many steps we must take to make our consumption sustainable. Adding fewer new consumers everywhere is one of them. So, um, yun nga, we only have one Earth, isa lang ang ating planeta. Pero, we are so many human na naninirahan dito. At saka, dahil sa rami ng tao na naninirahan sa ating planet, ang ating resources ay lumiliit ng lumiliit kasi kaya ng resources i-provide lahat ng kinakailangan ng bawat isa. So, isa ito sa mga problems sa mga population, sa sobrang laki ng population. So, renewable resources. Everyone understands that many of the Earth's resources are finite. We are currently completely reliant on fossil fuels, iron, and other metals, minerals, and even such basic commodities as sand to keep the modern world taking over. Adding more consumers make those resources run out faster. So, yun nga, always tayo as human, we always rely on those resources, and these resources are only limited. So, if we use them over and over, it will turn to nothingness. So if we keep using resources na sobrang limited lamang at hindi tayo marunong paano ito madadagdagan para sa ating consumption, ay malaking problema ito. Ito ang magiging solution if we know how to convert those materials and resources into many more materials and to make it sustainable. Pero unfortunately, that is very hard for us to do because resources that we have like iron and metals are not sustainable by itself. So the Earth also provides for our needs with renewable resources such as timber, clean water, and air. Healthy soils and wild fish consumed for food, but we are using twice as much as we can renew. So yun nga, even though compared sa mga examples kanina, ang itong mga examples such as timber, um, clean water and air, healthy soils, and fish are renewable. But since we are using twice as much as we can renew, the these things and this food can be lost to us because mawawala talaga kasi hindi natin namamalayan na ang mga ginagamit natin ay sobra-sobra sa kinakailangan natin. So even in though na it can be renewed, since marami ang kinukuha natin kaysa sa binibigay natin, ay yun ang kokos ng loss sa mga um, consumers na nawawalan tayo ng mga resources. So ito ang example ng consumption of earth resources. Bale, kung ikukumpara sa mga renewable ay mga resources natin, ano ang gaano karaming resources ang kinakailangan ng isang country na sinasabi ng Global Footprint Network. So, number of earth needed if everyone used renewable resources at the same rate as these individual countries. So, kung nasasabi dito, ang first as USA, kinakailangan ng USA ng 5 Earth. So, 5 Earths. So, sinasabi lang dito na ang USA talaga ay sobrang rami ng kung lahat ng individual sa USA ay magkukonsume ng mga renewable resources ng sabay, ay kinakailangan talaga nila ng 5 Earths. So, sa isang country pa lang ay kinakailangan na ng 5 Earths, di ba? So, sobrang rami. At kumpara naman sa UK, ang UK ay kinakailangan ng 2.8 Earths. So, kumpara sa US ay parang nasa gitna, ay parang kalahati lang ng US. So, ang China naman ay 2.1 Earths, while ang India ay 0.7 Earths. At I think Nigeria is equal to 1 Earth. So, di ba kung hindi pa ito ang buong bansa na nakakabilang sa Earth, so if everyone or every living individual here on Earth will use the renewable resources at the same rate, how many Earths do you think it will take for us to sustain our needs? Diba sobrang maraming Earths? So food and water. Excuse me. So food and water. More than 800 million people currently do not get enough food to meet their nutritional needs every day. Meanwhile, 650 million are obese. People go hungry not because there is insufficient food, but because our global economic system distributes it unfairly. So, yun nga. Wait lang. Yun nga. There are so many people in the world right now, like it is said in the statement that it has 800 million people that are do not have enough food. But this is not because there are no food, but the food is distributed in other places. So just like this example here, we have 650 million obese. Dahil sa nagpapatunay lamang ito na ang maraming tao ang kumakain ng sobra at dahil sa um, maling distribution ng global economic system, ang nagkukos ito ng ang food shortage sa ibang parts of the planet. So while other parts have too much, so it only means that we need to balance our distribution of food all around the world so that there will be no shortage in other countries and there is no um, too much food in other countries also, so that there will be no obesity and also malnourishment. Excuse me. Every extra mouth to feed puts more pressure on our food supply that is already under threat from multiple factors, including shortage of fresh water, soil depletion, decimated decimated populations of insect pollinators, and climate change. The UN currently projects that we will need 70% more food by 2050. Increasing agricultural production comes at a cost to nature. However, habitat loss and exploitation are the most significant threats to biodiversity. Currently, 80% of extinction threats to mammals and birds are due to agriculture. So, yun nga, we need more food by 2050. So, what it only means that um, we have so many shortage, just like here in the statement that we have shortage in fresh water and in soil, and also even the insect pollinators that helps um, us to get more food or resources from flowers. So there are many things that we need, but the food, but the population keeps growing. So just like it is said, we need 70% of food, more food than what we have right now. So that is so high and um, medyo mahirap yan gawin. So what we need to do is take action today so that in the future we will not need those 70% more food since we stabilize our population if that will happen. So if we will not stabilize our population right now, this 70% must I will be a big problem in the future, and we need to make a solution for it. So next problem and population issues is pollution. So hello. So next one is pollution. As with every environmental problems, while there are many solutions to pollution, adding more people to the population adds more polluters and makes those solutions less effective. While rich countries produce more plastic waste per person, for instance, poor regions where population growth outstrips the infrastructure to dispose the waste waste may contribute more plastic overall. So, yun nga, pag sobrang rami na ng population, ang mga polluters, marami din. So, dahil, let's say, um, isang tao na isang tao ay nagtatapon ng isang plastic sa river. But if there are, let's say, rumami ang tao dyan na area and it became 5,000 people. So, mas marami din ang mga taong magtatapon ng plastic sa river. So, and more plastics and overall is a big problem because plastics cannot be um, is not biodegradable, and we don't know how to dispose it without ruining our ozone layer. So next one is greed, need, and injustice. So vast disparities exist in consumption and impact between the rich world and the global south and within countries themselves. A more just global system in which resources are distributed more equitably is essential, whatever form that takes, in order to ensure that there is enough to meet everyone's right to a decent standard living. The richest must consume more sustainably, in other words, consume less. When nations leave poverty, their fertility rates reduce, but hand in hand with that increasing prosperity comes increased consumption. People should not have to compete for the earth's resources. So we have the problem here is when when there are people who have um less, ano nga yan, pag ang isang tao ay nagkakaroon ng less ng medyo um, mas tumaas ng kanilang living standard, let's say, that is one of the goals of the many, that we will have a growth in economy in our economy. And if ang economy ay mataas, mas tumataas din ang consumption ng maraming tao. So if that is the case, earth resources will become a competition for most. So we must not, even though we strive to have a great economy, we must not compete for food and resources because these resources are only limited. So that's why population and family size is an issue in both developed and developing countries. Where affluence and consumption is high, reducing the number of new consumers is an effective, permanent way of reducing the drain they place on resources as well as their environmental impact. So, yun nga, even though developing and um, developed countries are having a problem in population and family size. Why? Because just like what is said, if the country is developed, their economy is high, their consumption is also high. So that makes the resources lesser, and since it's not, most of it are not renewable or only limited, it causes an impact in our environment. So we need to um, make sure na ang kinukonsume ng bawat isa ay ma-reduce while also reducing the family size. Bale, kailangan lang talaga ng balance. And it does not mean that people should not do other things to reduce their consumption, or that wider issues of global injustice do not need to be urgently addressed. Nevertheless, reducing through effective ethical means, the number of affluent people consuming is essential, effective method to relieve the pressure. So it it doesn't mean na kinakailangan nating ay kinakailangan na masulba itong problema nito. It doesn't mean na hindi na natin i-prioritize ang mga other problems like injustice. It needs to be urgently addressed, but this thing about consumption must be addressed at the same time. So because it if this pressure in our resources will not be addressed right now, we will not have any resources to consume in the future. So significant um, progress has been made over the past 20 years combating global poverty and addressing other internationally agreed development goals, such as improving gender inequality, lowering child mortality, raising educational attainment, and improving sanitation and access to clean water. So, sorry. So, yun nga, in the past 20 years, most government officials are trying their best to attain these goals, just like gender inequality, lowering child mortality, because this is one of the things that most um, underdeveloped countries are um, facing right now. However, the progress has been uneven within and across countries in region, and benefits of social economic progress have not been shared equally. So yun nga, pag ang isang problem ay fini-face nga, tunay na fini-face ng government, but only some governments in the country are facing it, is not good. So if let's say America is also facing this problem like what I said, gender inequality, lowering child mortality, raising education. But in Africa, there is no um, trying to solve this. If they are not trying to solve this problem, it will affect the citizens in that country. So, sorry, this these problems must be faced by every leaders of every country, so that the progress will not be only in one country but to every country in the world. So world population has increased by 2 billion people over the past 25 years, from 5.3 billion in 1990 to 7.3 billion in 2015. So, di ba, so nagpapatunay lang ito na sobrang rami ng tao ang nabubuhay at mabubuhay pa. So, marami talaga ang mga masipag na tao talaga sa world natin ngayon, kasi ang increase ng population natin ay sobrang mabilis. Yun nga, nagkaroon ng 2 billion people more in just 25 years, and that is so big. World's population is still growing by an additional 81 million people per year. So there are there are 81 million people per year. So that is so big for everyone, and if it continues to grow in that rapid rate, it will cause much problems in the following years. With the exception of Europe, where total population is projected to decrease by slightly less than 1% by 2030. So, with exception of only one continent, just Europe only have lesser decrease in population. It is only 1%. And what about the other continents and countries? So it only tells us that most of the countries that uh, people live right now have a growing population and keeps growing as the time pass by. All the other regions are projected to grow by at least 10% over the next 15 years. So um, just like just like in Africa, there they have so many they have so many population, and they are one of the continent that have a biggest population growth in the past years. Next is at the household level, high fertility levels can exacerbate poverty and increase the likelihood of it being transmitted from one generation to next. So, yun nga, pag ang isang pamilya ay nagkakaroon ng sobrang raming anak, ito ay nagkaka-cause ng poverty in most cases, at it most likely to be transmitted from one generation to next. So, let's say you your parent um have eight sons and daughters. So, yun, marami kayong magkakapatid. Marami malaki ang chance na you and your siblings will have the same kind of family, that the parents have many children. So it must not be people must not conform to the um, fertility rates, or hindi dapat ang mga tao mag-conform sa ma- ginagawa ng kanilang parents. Let's say marami ang inaanak, dapat hindi kayo gumaya sa parents para ma-stop na ang too much na population. In low-income household, people typically marry earlier and have more children than in high-income household. So, in low-income household, they most likely na mag-marry at a young age, while those people who have high income, they most likely marry at a later age. So, marrying young is a great factor that most family have a larger amount of children. So, if you marry late, there is a chance that you will have only about 2 to 3 children. So that is good for our population. Consequently, low-income families are less able to invest in their children's education, a critical factor for determining opportunities for social mobility. So, if low income na nga ang family nyo at marami kayo magkakapatid, ito ay nakakapekto talaga sa children's education. So, ang edukasyon nyo ay naaapektuhan, at saka in your later years, when you became adult, become you will have problems in your job because your social mobility is unstable. Lower fertility increases investment in children, improves women's health and empowerment. Higher household earnings assets, better use of preventive health services, and improved outcomes for children's health and schooling. So, if most daw sa families na only have children that are, let's say, one to two children or three, most likely that they can afford to give their child a better education, and also their other needs like health services and many more. So if families have fewer children, they most likely to get um, they most likely have money to invest for their children. Reductions in fertility typically imply changes in timing of childbearing, with smaller family size being correlated with later age at first birth. Longer intervals between births and lower levels of childbearing at older ages. So if people have um, low fertility or reductions in fertility, it it causes to um, changes in the timing of childbearing. So let's say you as a child and your sibling have a 5 year gap. So that that is quite good for our population because at those 5 year gap there are lesser children who are born. So it is good. Such changes reduce the proportion of births in certain high risk categories and therefore contribute reduced levels of child and maternal mortality and morbidity. So, yun nga, pag na-reduce ang proportion, it can reduce the mortality rate and morbidity, mortality, bale, mas lesser, um, mas lesser ang mamamatay na ina or anak at those times. So, what are the causes of population growth? First is the lack of priority by the government and donors for women's right and family planning. So, women's right and family planning is very important. So, if women's right and family planning are not being prioritized, the family, most family in those countries will not have the knowledge and awareness that um, about their family planning. So, most likely their state will have these families will have more children and causes strain to our population. And also, women's right is very important for women to have the right if they do not want to have a children or not. So if these are prioritized by the government, it can help reduce the population growth. But right now, it is not the priority. That is why it causes population growth. So the next cause is immigration. So in the U.S., immigration drives about 2/3 of the country's population growth. There are business interests such as construction industry and those who want to exploit cheap labor that have lobbied for continued population growth. So immigration is one of the causelets in US is one of the countries that there are so many immigrants, let's say from Mexico and other countries in the world. So it causes population growth because these people are going to this, let's say in US, the US population will become much uh, higher than in other countries. So it is also a problem in um, in the world if the immigration is not contained and not being prioritized. So, what are the solutions um, that we can see to solve the population issues? First one is voluntary family planning, information, and services. So, if we will have more awareness and education about family planning in every parts of the world, the families who are um, those couples who are right now planning to have a baby will have the knowledge to um, try to stop if they have the knowledge to stop if they know that they have the right amount of children that will help our population. Let's say, kung ang family ay aware sila na hindi tama ang magkaroon ng, let's say, five above na anak kasi ito ay nakaka-apekto ng population, they will realize that, and if they also realize the effects of higher population not only to the world but also sa kanilang pamilya, they will realize na hindi tama na magkaroon ng sobrang raming anak kung hindi naman nila kayang suportahan ang mga basic needs nila. So, itong ang isa sa pinakamagandang solusyon para ma-stop na ang too much na population growth or ma-sustain ang population growth. Next one is role modeling small family norms for the global public. So, there are still many countries around the world that have bigger family norms. So, that causes the population growth to keep on growing. So, if ang family natin ay meron ng or ma-stop na ang mga norms na kinakailangan dapat na marami ang anak, ay isa ito sa mag-help sa ating population para mag-decrease. So, dapat meron ng role model or mag-stop sa mga family na mabibigyan ng mga information about sa family planning. Pwede sila maging role model for the next generation to stop or to have a fewer children when they marry someone. Next one is elevating the status of women and girls worldwide. So, yun nga, pag ang women and girls worldwide need to have the knowledge and their voice must be heard by everyone that they have a right, and it is not they must not be forced to be pregnant just because other people say so. So, yun nga, dapat ang lahat ng mga babae at mga lahat ng mga babae dapat mabigyan ng pansin at i-elevate ang kanilang status. Dapat hindi sila hindi dapat sila dinidiktahan kung ano ang decisions ng kanilang gustong gawin in their lives. But they must be supported in every decisions they make, and because they are the one who bears a child, so their decisions affects our population. So we need to elevate them, hear their voice, and support them in everything that they do. So in conclusion, we need to realize that we keep growing in population and it affects everyone in the planet in many ways. So we need to make an action in order for it to not get worse. So we need to stop and think about our actions right now if it helps our population. So in it is one thing that most of the citizens in the world need to hear, that our growing population are keep growing. So we need to stop and know that these consequences cannot be undone. So in order for it, in order for it to not get worse, we need to know this knowledge and have the awareness to stop this. So that's all my report about population issues. And by the way, my name is Matthew, and thank you for listening.